Joining me right now is Georgia Congressman, member of the House Energy and Commerce Committee and House Budget Committee, Buddy Carter. Congressman, it's great to have you this morning. Thanks very much for being here. I know you visited the border this past weekend. Give us your firsthand viewpoint. What did you see?
Well, first of all, I was expecting to see a crisis. What I saw was a disaster. It is overwhelming, to say the least. You know, we had the most illegal crossings last month that we've had in the last 15 years, and we had over 172,000 crossing that border. And of that, 19,000 were children. Now, I had a particular interest in the unaccompanied children, and that's what we really focused on our trip last week on Friday. And what we saw was overcrowding that is just unacceptable. It's a humanitarian crisis there. We had a facility, a Customs and Border Patrol facility, a processing center that has a capacity of 250. That day on Friday, they had 3,500 people in there. 3,500, and that 3,500, 2,600 of them were children. It is just overwhelming, and the CBP agents are doing the very best they can. They're doing a great job and being social service workers essentially. But at the same time, this is just unacceptable. Not only is it a humanitarian crisis, but also what we saw is that it is a national security issue as well. We were told by the agents, by the leadership there, that they've caught a number of terrorists coming across that border. Not only that, but the surge of illegal drugs. And listen, these cartels, they are smart people. They know what they're doing. They divert attention. Because the CBP agents are being used in the processing center, they're not able to be on the border itself. We had a situation where they told us that they have a 23-mile border that's being right now that 3 agents are working at, and that's just not enough. And of course the cartels know that. They're sending drugs across, and it's causing a national security problem.
Well, this is why so many states' attorneys general are suing the Biden administration. It is completely changing their states. It certainly has completely overturned and changed the border cities, that's for sure. But one comment that Chad Wolf made the other day I thought was really spot on was one of the problems is that the Biden administration is not stopping the flow. They're not doing anything to actually make people accountable for breaking the law. Instead, they're talking about things like, let's send them money to Central Americans. Maybe that will incentivize them to stay put. Or let's build more facilities so that we can house these kids. It's just building out capacity, but you're not actually stopping the flooding water. You're not stopping the floods of people from coming, because they overturned all of the Trump policies like remain in Mexico, stop, building the wall, putting back catch and release. I thought that was really smart. But look, Congressman, I got to get your take on Georgia, because you've got these CEOs. They are actually, now we understand, they are extreme CEOs. They are activist people. They are pushing back against Georgia's laws. 100 CEOs reportedly met over the weekend to discuss Georgia's legislation. It comes as several prominent companies, including Georgia-based corporations, Coca-Cola and Delta, are speaking out against the state's recent election law. Tell us what the law says. Why are CEOs acting this way? Is there something in this law that you want to point out that is restrictive of voting?
There is nothing in this law that's restrictive of voting. In fact, it does just the opposite. It expands voting and makes it easier to vote, whereas it makes it harder to cheat. And if these CEOs would not listen to the misinformation and the lies that's being spread by Stacey Abrams, by Joe Biden, and by Raphael Warnock, then they would understand. If they would just read the law itself, they would see that it actually does expand voting. We actually added an extra Saturday into the early voting period and gave the counties options to add 2 Sundays. Now, most of these CEOs are sitting in their ivory towers in New York State. And if you compare New York State with Georgia, you'll see that Georgia has much better voting regulations. In New York State, they only have 10 days of early voting. We have up to 19 days of early voting. In New York State, you have to have an excuse to vote absentee. In Georgia, you don't. All of this is just ridiculous. It's nothing more than lies and misinformation being spread by Joe Biden, by the Democrats, Raphael Warnock, Stacey Abrams. And then they say, oh, no, you're going to take the All-Star game out of Georgia? Oh, how horrible. Yeah, well, it's because of your misinformation and lies that they're doing that. Thank you very much.
Well, Well, this is very troubling. I mean, what are we going to do? We hear lies every week from this administration. Joe Biden needs to come out and correct the record. He's calling it Jim Crow 2.0, and companies are following suit. This is outrageous, Congressman. Thanks very much for weighing in here. We'll see you soon. We'll be right back.